always believed love would feel like warmth, like safety. But the night I married Ayan, something in his eyes felt cold. We met in the most unexpected way. I was 26, building my event planning business from the ground up in Lahore, barely sleeping and constantly chasing my next client. He was the charming, soft-spoken investor who claimed to believe in my dream. Tall, graceful, always in crisp suits and gentle smiles. Ayan was the kind of man who made women glance twice and trust too quickly. First, I thought I was the lucky one. We laughed over late-night chai, bonded over our love for old ghazals and vintage architecture, and before I knew it, he was walking me home every evening like he belonged beside me. He was the one who encouraged me to take risks, to dream bigger. And when he proposed in the courtyard of my childhood home, surrounded by fairy lights and my favorite music playing softly in the background, it felt like a fairy tale, one I never thought I deserved. But something strange started to unfold right after our nikah. He wasn't cruel. He was attentive, kind even. But there were moments, sharp, confusing moments, when his words cut a little too deep, when his smile felt forced, when his silence lingered too long after I said, "I love you." I tried brushing it off. Maybe he was adjusting, maybe I was imagining things. But my heart knew something was off. Ayan was holding something back, something big. And no matter how much I tried to bridge the distance, it kept growing. Then, one evening, I walked into his study by accident. He had left a file open on the desk. My name was there, along with photos from years ago, dates, notes, picture of my father. And right at the bottom, a single line written in Ayan's handwriting. "She has no idea yet. Soon." My stomach dropped. My father was involved? I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. All I did was lie beside him, pretending to be asleep as he whispered soon into the dark. I wanted to run, but I also wanted to understand. Who was this man I had married? And why did it feel like I was part of some long, twisted game? What I didn't know then was that his revenge had a reason. And somewhere beneath the anger he buried so deeply, love had started to bloom. I just didn't know if it would be enough to save us both. The weeks that followed were a blur of half-truths and quiet confusion. Our home looked perfect from the outside. Newlywed photos on the walls, late-night dinners, small stolen kisses in the hallway. But inside I was unraveling. Ayan had perfected the art of emotional camouflage. He remembered my favorite tea, gently held my hand during family visits, even surprised me with a weekend getaway to Murray. And yet I could feel the wall between us, tall, cold, and quietly unmovable. I tried to dismiss the note I had seen, convincing myself it was work-related, a strange coincidence, maybe a project I didn't understand. But every time I looked at him, really looked, I saw it in his eyes. There was something he wasn't saying. Something he was fighting to keep buried. And me? I was falling for him. Genuinely, deeply, terrifyingly falling for a man who might have married me for reasons that had nothing to do with love. One night, as rain tapped against our bedroom windows, I asked him, "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" He looked at me, then away, jaw tense. "Not like this." That was all he said. And somehow it told me everything. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that file. About the photo of my father. My father, who had always kept his past locked behind silence. He was a self-made businessman, respected, proud, but distant in ways I never questioned until now. And the more I thought about it, the more pieces began to click. His hesitation when I told him about Ayan, the way he avoided eye contact at the wedding, how he left early that day without explanation. Was Ayan connected to my father's past? One afternoon while Ayan was at a meeting, I went searching. Not to spy, at least that's what I told myself, but to find the truth I already felt pressing on my chest. In his drawer I found a letter. It was old, crumpled, and signed by someone with my father's initials. It spoke of a deal gone wrong, of betrayal, of someone's family being destroyed. And Ayan's name was there, mentioned once. In sorrow, not anger. My hands trembled. Was this why he married me? To settle something my father did? Yet every time Ayan looked at me lately, there was pain in his eyes. Not hate, not vengeance. Something else. Something that made my heart ache in confusion. What if he never planned to fall in love with me? What if that was the one thing he couldn't control? The silence between Ayan and me had become its own language. We still smiled for the world, attended weddings, posed for photos, made polite small talk with relatives. But behind closed doors, the distance had become undeniable. Neither of us spoke of the letter I'd found, because he didn't know I had read it, and I didn't know how to ask him why he had hidden it. Then came the night I met Zara. She showed up at a charity gala we were hosting for my company's anniversary. A soft-spoken woman in her late 30s, with striking hazel eyes and a kindness that immediately drew me in. She introduced herself as an old friend of Ayan's family. Nothing more. But the way Ayan froze when he saw her, just for a second, sent a ripple through my heart. Later that night, as guests mingled under chandeliers and the soft hum of music played in the background, I found Zara alone on the balcony. She didn't hesitate. "You don't know the whole story, do you?" she asked gently. "What story?" I asked, my voice barely steady. She looked at me almost apologetically. "Ayan's father was ruined by your father's company. He lost everything, his career, his reputation, even his will to live. Ayan was just a teenager when it happened." My breath caught. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to believe this was some twisted misunderstanding. "He hated your family for years," she continued. "He planned everything carefully, including marrying you." I felt my legs weaken, my vision blur. But what Zara said next stopped my heart completely. "But then he fell for you. And now he's trapped between the past he's been carrying like poison, and the woman he never expected to love." I returned home that night with a storm inside me. I sat in the living room waiting. When Ayan finally walked in, I didn't hide the pain in my voice. "How long were you going to pretend?" He looked at me. Not surprised. Just tired. "I never meant to hurt you," he said softly. "At first I wanted revenge. But somewhere along the way, you became the only thing that mattered." "But you still kept lying," I whispered. "You still chose silence." "I was scared," he said. "Scared that if you knew the truth, I'd lose you. And losing you feels worse than anything your father ever did." For the first time, I saw the brokenness in him. Not just anger. Not just bitterness. But a man caught between loyalty to a father's memory and a love he never expected. I didn't know what to do with that pain. Or that love. But I knew we had crossed a point where nothing could stay the same. I couldn't sleep after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ayan's face. Torn between guilt and longing. Between the man he used to be and the man he was desperately trying to become. He said he loved me. He said I mattered more than his past. But how could I trust a love that was born from a lie? Days passed in a haze. We shared the same house but not the same space. Meals were quiet. Glances lingered too long. Conversations ended too soon. He wanted to explain, but I wasn't ready to listen. And I wasn't sure I wanted to forgive. Then one morning, I received a call from my father. "We need to talk," he said. "It's about Ayan." I went to his office that afternoon, heart pounding like a warning bell. My father was pacing, looking older than I'd ever seen him. His hands trembled slightly as he handed me a file. Inside were old legal documents, letters, and photos, evidence of a deal gone wrong. But for the first time I saw the full picture. Yes, Ayan's father had lost everything. But not because of cruelty or betrayal. It was a tragic business collapse that spiraled beyond control. My father had tried to help, even paid compensation privately. But Ayan never knew. His father died believing he had been betrayed. And Ayan grew up carrying that rage like armor. "I kept quiet to protect you," my father said quietly. "I didn't want you living in a war that wasn't yours. But it was mine now, because I had married into it." I left my father's office with shaking hands and a storm inside me. I had to confront Ayan. No more secrets. No more shadows. When I returned home, Ayan was waiting in the living room, as if he sensed everything was about to change. "I know," I said before he could speak. "I know what happened. I know what you believed. And I know the truth." He stepped forward, eyes wide. "Then you know I was wrong." "Yes," I whispered, my voice cracking. "But you also let hate drive our story. You turned our love into a weapon. And I don't know how to live with that." His voice broke. I didn't know how to stop. Until you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. And now that it's all broken. He walked to me slowly, gently, like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Then maybe we build something honest. From the ruins." I wanted to run. I wanted to fall into his arms. I wanted to scream. But instead, I stood there, suspended in the moment between betrayal and the possibility of healing. We were standing on a knife's edge, and whichever way we fell, nothing would ever be the same. Just when I thought the worst was behind us, when I started to believe we could rebuild from the ruins, we were hit with something none of us saw coming. It was a Thursday afternoon, quiet, almost peaceful. I had decided to meet Zara again. Something about her still lingered in my thoughts. I needed closure, maybe even guidance. We met at a small cafe, the kind with peeling walls and chai that burned your throat, but somehow felt like comfort. Zara was waiting at the corner table. She looked nervous, not like before. She held my hand across the table and leaned in close. "There's something you don't know," she whispered. "Something Ayan doesn't know either." My heart tightened. "What is it?" She paused, glanced around, and then finally spoke. "Your father wasn't just involved in Ayan's family downfall. He was involved with me." My stomach dropped. Zara continued, her voice barely audible. "I was engaged to Ayan's father. We were supposed to marry. But your father, he came into our lives, promised us a business partnership, and destroyed everything. Not just financially, personally. He broke us apart." My breath caught in my throat. "And when Ayan was young, your father threatened to take everything from their family unless his father disappeared quietly. That's why he left Lahore. That's why he died alone." "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "That's not what my father told me." Zara looked at me, tears in her eyes. "He lied. To you. To everyone. Ayan built his revenge on half the truth. And the man you've defended? He's not the innocent you think." When I returned home, my hands trembled. I stared at my father's photo on the wall, now seeing it not with love, but with suspicion. That night, I told Ayan everything Zara had said. He went pale. My mother, she always said my father loved someone before her. But she never named her. "And now?" I asked. "What do we do with this?" He stared at the floor for a long moment. Then he said the one thing I never expected. "I don't want revenge anymore. I want justice. But justice comes at a price. Because if we go after the truth, we'll be exposing my own father. The man who raised me. The man I trusted." And just like that, the lines blurred again between love and loyalty, between right and wrong. The story I thought I understood had just turned inside out. And now we had to decide whether the truth was worth destroying the last pieces of the lives we had left. It all came down to one night. The evidence Zara had given me, the letters, voice messages, even a recorded confession from a former business associate, was now neatly packed in a brown envelope sitting on our dining table. Across from it sat Ayan, silent, his eyes fixed on the floor as if afraid the truth would swallow him whole. I stood beside him, torn in every possible way. My love for Ayan, my loyalty to my father, my aching need to do what was right. They clashed inside me like a storm with no eye. "My father built his empire on secrets," I said quietly. "But I never knew it would cost me everything I love." Ayan finally looked at me. "You don't have to choose between us. If we do this, we do it together. I'm not asking you to turn against him. I'm asking you to help me end this cycle." And deep down I knew he was right. If we didn't break this chain of silence and revenge now, it would just keep bleeding into every generation after us. We submitted the evidence anonymously. The media exploded with it. Corruption, coercion, the manipulation of vulnerable families, it all came out. My father denied everything, of course. But the paper trail was too clear. I didn't speak to him again after that. I resigned from the company, walked away from everything I had once believed made me who I was. And still, every night, I lay awake wondering if I had done the right thing. If love should have been louder than justice. But Ayan never left my side. Not once. He held me when I cried. He kept space for my grief. He helped me build something new. Not from revenge, not from guilt, but from truth. And then, on the balcony where we had once stood as strangers in love, he brought out a ring. Not a grand gesture. No crowd. Just the two of us, surrounded by silence. "I married you the first time with anger in my heart," he said. "This time, I want to marry you with nothing but love." I said yes, not because everything was perfect, but because we had survived the wreckage and chosen each other through it. The story that began in pain didn't end in a fairy tale. It ended in something real. And that, I finally realized, was enough. People say love can conquer anything, but they never talk about what happens after the war. Ayan and I didn't fall back into happiness overnight. After everything that had come to light about his past, about my father, about why we were even together in the first place, we had to rebuild our relationship from the ground up. Started with honesty. The kind that stings. The kind that makes you cry in the middle of breakfast or go silent during a drive. We talked about everything, his pain, my guilt, our fears. We didn't try to cover up the scars anymore. We let them breathe. He told me he still dreamed of his father. That sometimes revenge still whispered in his ear. I told him I sometimes missed the version of my father I believed in, the one who read me bedtime stories and taught me how to ride a bike. But the biggest thing we learned? Love isn't about forgetting the past. It's about choosing the future together. We got married again. Not in a big hall or with flashing cameras. Just us, close friends, and Zara, who had become a surprising constant in our lives. She stood by us like family, finally free of secrets herself. After the wedding, Ayan and I started a nonprofit in his father's name. It supports small businesses and families wronged by corporate abuse, the very thing that tore our families apart. Helping others gave us purpose. It gave our pain meaning. As for my father, he was never convicted, but the truth changed how the world saw him. And how I saw him. I didn't hate him. I couldn't. But I finally stopped protecting his legacy at the cost of my own. Ayan forgave him too, in his own quiet way. We visited his grave together. No drama. Just peace. Now, years later, when I look at Ayan, I don't see the man who once married me for revenge. I see the man who chose to stay, who chose to heal, and who let love change him. This wasn't a perfect love story. It was a real one. And sometimes that's even better.